What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. This is episode number 126, and my special guest is Hayden Downs. Hayden is a 20-year-old person who stutters from Nashville, Tennessee. He is currently a junior at Baylor University and is pursuing a bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorder. He plans to pursue a master's degree as well as a clinical doctorate in speech-language pathology. Hayden is passionate about serving others, serves as a summer camp counselor, and plans to write a memoir. Some of his passions include snow skiing, Formula One racing, and reading. I am honored to have him as a guest with me on the My Stuttering Live podcast. Welcome, Hayden Downs.
Great to be here today.
Thank you, sir. This is a huge honor. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started.
Let's get to it.
All right. So do you remember when you first began to stutter?
Ooh, well, I do not consciously remember it, but from what I've been told, I have been stuttering since the moment that I began to speak. I know that I began to speak at a delayed age, too. So I would estimate I've been stuttering since about the age of 2.
Does it run in your family? Do you have any family members who stutter?
Surprisingly, I am the sole person in my entire family who does stutter, and that is quite odd because there is usually like a pretty strong genetic link. So that's always been a big question, like why am I the only person?
Have you ever had speech therapy in school? And if you did, was it helpful?
Well, I have always gone to schools that were private, so the school did not have that obligation to provide speech therapy themselves. But my parents were always providing that privately for me. Sometimes I would go out to clinics, or I would quite often go to a room up by school and have an outside speech therapist meet me there. I have most recently gone to speech therapy when I was 13, and since then I have briefly gone to refreshers since, but have not had that really long-term consistent speech therapy since. But I though do provide my own speech therapy practice at home.
Oh, wow. How cool. Awesome, sir. Okay. Now, let's talk about school, because as you know, school is rough. It's rough. If you have a stutter, it's like, it's even more rough. How did you handle school with having a stutter?
Great question. Yeah, well, I definitely think that I was not really overly concerned about trying to handle school with a stutter. I was just mostly focused on just trying to get through every day because every day was such a challenge, and parts of school were especially scary too, like being called on class to speak or to give a presentation. and especially popcorn reading too, where you all go in an order. I would be counting ahead to see what part I would be having to read. I would be asking my teachers to give me extra time before I had to give a presentation so I could get ready. It was all a big game of just survival. Yeah. So I guess in terms of just trying to get through it, I tended to mostly just stay quiet, to not really speak unless it was really necessary. It was all about just trying to barely squeak by.
Ooh, Hayden, you are speaking the truth, Hayden, speaking the truth. Because let me tell you, I mean, I'm like way older than you were. I'm like twice your age, sir. When I was in school, back in the late 1970s, back in the day, sir, I keep it real. We had to, we each had a paragraph in either English class, history, or whatnot. And so we had to read out loud. And so I was, sitting at the halfway point. And so, there were a couple of kids, who were, already in front of me, and they had their, paragraphs. And so I knew what I had to read. Hayden, I mean, my heart was hurting. My head was hurting. I was sweating. I had a paragraph, but you know what? To me, it looked like a book, because I counted like 100 words that I could not say. And then when I had to read, we had to, stand up and then hold the book. And then I tried it, Hayden. I gave it my all, Hayden. But let me tell you, nothing came out. I blocked, I repeated, and then I could hear everyone behind me, laughing and mocking and calling me, a porky pig. And then after I heard that, I said, oh no, this ain't never going to happen again. And so I sat down, and to add insult to injury, Hayden, the kid behind me had to read what I couldn't read. And so from here on out, Hayden, from the day after, if I had to read out loud, I would raise my hand and go to the boys' restroom. I spent the majority of my school in the boys' restroom. I was in a stall, and then I would wait. How long does it take to go and read a paragraph? That's how long I stayed in the restroom stall. And then after I thought, that I was all done, I would go, back to class. And then, they had skipped over me. Because, you said it best. Survival. Pedro has to survive, because you do not forget that type of trauma. You don't. And so for Pedro, I said, I'm going to protect Pedro from here on out. I spent the bulk, Hayden, in grade school, in junior high, in high school, in undergraduate, in graduate school. Hayden, the struggle is real, sir. The struggle is real. So yes, sir. Woo. It's all coming back to me, Hayden, now. It's all coming back, Hayden. All right. So I want to ask you, do you have any advice for, for parents or teachers and or speech therapists with regards to children who stutter?
Probably, I'd say the largest aspect that needs to be really communicated more is that the experience living as a stutter, especially as a child, is intensely psychological. It is not just the the external symptoms, but also how you feel about those and how they affect you, because so much of our existence is trying to avoid, is trying to cope with the anxiety or the shame or the embarrassment. So I guess just trying to provide healthy ways to help that one child get by in a healthy and not a harmful way is probably the best way to protect or to help that child.
All right, so that is awesome advice. Awesome. Okay, we are going to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about employment. Had you ever experienced discrimination because of your speech?
Thankfully, I have not had any really true employment discrimination due to my speech. I am still quite young, and I am only a current college student, so my employment history has been quite limited. I know that really the only instance of me having trouble at work has been when I just like flat out refuse to try to like chat to customers to try to sell them credit cards when I worked in retail, just because I saw that as a insurmountable issue, and that did not go over well with my boss. but that is really the only true discrimination that I have faced myself.
And speaking about employment, how are your job interviews? Because I mean, as job interviews are stressful for everybody, but for us, it's a little bit more stressful. How did you handle job interviews?
To this day, I still have no clue how I managed to handle it as well as I did. I mean, as any person who does stutter knows, we have days where for reasons completely outside of our control, we experience spontaneous fluency, and that was just one time where it happened to kick in when I needed it most. I mean, I would prefer not to have had to rely on that, but had I not had that, I would have been a mess. Yeah, so I barely skated by, but I expect in the future, though, for interviews to be quite challenging.
Ooh, Hayden. I'm much older than you are, Hayden, so I've been through it all. I've had job interviews where I just crashed and burned, sir. Crashed and burned. I would hyperventilate. The interviewer would hand me a bag to breathe in. And then after I was all done, I wasn't hired. And they walked me out the door. But I mean, I've had job interviews where it's just crash and burn until, later in, life, I learned I'm just going to tell them. I can't hide this, Hayden. I can't hide this. And so, I go in. Hi, good morning. I'm Pedro Pena. I have a speech impediment. I have a stutter. So if at any time I get hung up on any words, I want you to give me 8 hours, and then hopefully I will see a smirk and or a laugh. And then, and that way I get it out of the way. I get the awkwardness out of the way, and then, after it's out there, I can just answer all their questions. Wham, bam, bam. And then also I tell them, here is what, here's what you will see and hear. However, I'm just having a block. I will get over it and move on. But I mean, Hayden, I got to tell you, I've had horrible job interviews, and then, after I would disclose, they got easier and easier. So yeah, because I can't hide this. Yeah, it's not possible, sir. Okay, now let's let's talk about our pandemic. Okay.
And
The entire earth halted in March of 2020. And I was told that I will be, that I will have to work from home remotely. I will have a headset. I will have a webcam. And when I was told that, Hayden, I thought my life was over. I was just accustomed to talking to human beings every day at my job. However, when, COVID hit, shut everything down. And so, I was, I was told on a Friday. And so on Saturday, Hayden, I spiraled. I mean, I don't know if I can do this, Hayden. If I can't do it, I'm going to be terminated. And, I got a mortgage, and kids who have to eat every day. I mean, they just got to eat every day. And I mean, I got a dog, and it's like, I spiraled. And then on Sunday, I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I called up a buddy and said, look, I have to practice on Zoom and Teams and Skype. I need your help. So I had practice with a buddy, for hours, and that helped me out. Okay. Now, if you are a person who stutters, it has pushed us completely out of our comfort zones, because now we're home, we have a headset, we have a webcam, and now we have to do everything, on Zoom, Skype, or Teams. How did you navigate this new normal?
Ooh, I haven't even really thought of that on my own before, but I guess it has made me even more self-aware too, because especially when you are doing a group call, whenever a person speaks, you tend to all see their picture and hear just their audio. So of course, people can see exactly when you're stuttering. They can see your face and see every possible movement that is going on there. They can hear your voice and every crack or break or pause. Yeah, so it seems like people are hyper focused on what you're saying, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but feels like you're being stared at even more. Yeah, so I definitely have to try to go about those calls with some extra peace and some calmness. Try to just manage how I'm feeling, some deep breaths, just trying to manage those strong emotions and the panic.
Ooh, Hayden, let me tell you, I had to tell everybody, it is not your internet connection. It's Pedro having a block. Do not adjust your internet provider's connection. It's just Pedro. All that I need is just, I may need a minute or two, but it's okay because, I will get it out. But yes, and hey, it's crazy. All of their heads are right there. They're all looking at you, Hayden. It's like, oh my God. Here I am all sweating, and here in Texas, it's really hot in the summers, and they're all looking at you. You're sweating, and it's like, yeah, it was a lot. But what I did, I educated them. I said, look, here's what's going to happen. So just an FYI, because Hayden, I had some days where nothing came out, nothing, Hayden, and I was just looking at the webcam. But you know what? I got through it, Hayden. I got through it. Whew, hallelujah. All right, sir. I'm telling you. All right. So I want to talk about some ADLs, and these are activities of daily living. I want to talk about how do you handle the telephones? How do you handle the drive-thrus? And how do you handle ordering at a restaurant? Go.
Well, the telephone. I know that for years I I hated even the idea of using it. It would cause visceral fear, just even hear one ring. Yeah. And I guess it was up until I was able to go to the one speech therapy method that I currently use, that I just try to avoid it at all costs. Um, Now I tend to handle it where I just try to be very clear with what I am saying, just really take extra time. uh just being very effortful. And I guess not being afraid to repeat what I want to say to make it clear too. Yeah. I think even just to say to the other person who I am speaking to, like that, like, hey, I'm having a bit of a hard time right now speaking, but I can do this, so just give me time. That has always been very beneficial to me. Um, Drive-throughs are still a challenge to this day because every single time they all think that either I am not quite close enough to the microphone or their headset isn't really quite working. So that is always a big challenge. Once again, that is just me trying to push through it, but that's probably not the healthiest way to look at it. As for ordering in restaurants, that has always been a thing historically, where I have been kind of pushed to do that for myself always. My parents definitely had the view that they did not want to show it to me in that way, so they always had me do it for myself. So that is not a challenge at all. I mean, I of course do stutter, but I don't feel nearly as much fear about that, just because I've over time been quite desensitized to it.
Ooh, Hayden. I mean, you just hitting all them hot topics, because telephone. Every time I would hear this, Hayden, my heart would want to jump out of my chest. I mean, it was visceral. I mean, every time I heard it, I thought it was over. My life is over. And then, Hayden, I told myself, look, I have to do this. This one contraption, I have to conquer, because if I don't, I mean, it will have an impact on everything. And so what I did, Hayden, is I went to eBay, and so I had ordered an office, telephone that resembled what I had in my office at that time. And so then, I got it, and then I practiced in my bedroom. I didn't hook it up. No. I pulled on all of my acting, in high school. I'm a thespian, so I pulled up all of my acting experience, and then I practiced, making telephone calls and receiving, telephone calls. I'd go bring, and then I would just have a conversation all by myself in my room. It's what I did for half a year, Hayden. Half a year. I practiced every single day. And any coach will tell you, if you want to get good at anything, you need to practice. And so for half a year, I practiced every single day until at that half year mark, Hayden, no more fear, no more anxiety. It became all boring, extremely boring. So at work, when I heard it ring, hi, good morning. I'm Pedro Pena. How may I help you? I mean, it came out, Hayden. It came out. And I mean, but I mean, I had to work hard for half a year. I mean, this is hard work. I don't have to tell you, Hayden, but I'm telling everybody else, this is hard work, because we have to work 100 times harder than everybody else to only do the what others do quite easily, it takes me a lot longer. So yeah. And then, our drive-thrus, rough. And restaurants, I just point. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. However, I know I have to stop doing that. But, I'm still a work in progress, Hayden. I'm still a work in progress. All right. So I want to ask you this. Do you think it's important for people who stutter to have a thick skin?
The wording of that really gets me. I think it is important to get by, just because we live in a world that is cruel, but ideally I wish that we did not need to develop it. I know that most people just tend to build theirs during childhood, and they hold on to it for the rest of their lives. Yeah, but I think it is important for people who stutter to have thick skin, just to be able to bounce off all the hurt that is thrown our way by people who are ignorant. So yeah, that is just a necessity to be able to not completely fall apart.
Oh, yes, sir. Woo, yes, sir. All right, so let's talk about secondary behaviors. I mean, I have a toolbox that I have built up since age 6. And now, Hayden, I am 52. That's a big old toolbox. And so if ever I have a block, or if I have a repetition, I may, tap my head, or tap my leg, or tap my foot, or use an accent, albeit a horrible either Aussie or, Cockney UK accent. I will use whatever I can to help me get out of a block or a repetition. Had you ever done that before?
My block largely presented in the way of either facial grimacing, or I would have an explosive head movement to the left-hand side. It's not as much stuttering itself related, but more so overall like feeling anxious related, in which I'll have a constantly bouncing leg. So largely the facial grimacing and also the explosive head movement were those two main movements that I have had historically, but as of right now, I have those pretty minimized. So,
I mean, I use everything. I use everything, Hayden, because I mean, it's all about survival. I got to do what I got to do to get the word out. And I mean, we are all different in, our journeys, however, we all have that common denominator that, we do have a stutter. However, our journeys are just, I mean, they're, we are all different, but it's all good. It's all good. So what is a technique that you do often to help you manage your speech?
Ooh, that is a big question. Well, so for the last about 8 years now, I have used one speech therapy method. That is the last form of formal speech therapy that I have had. And it is called the Precision Fluency Shaping Program. It is an intensive speech therapy program based out of Norfolk, Virginia, and it is run by Ross Barrett and Carrie Drew. And essentially, the epitome of that program are are 3 different targets that I use. One targets your basically your speech support and like your breathing. One supports your voicing, trying to start up and initiate those sounds, and third ensures continuous speech. So those are the main aspects, or I guess like the techniques that I use, using all those in coordination.
How cool. You know, I've had 20 years of speech therapy, on and off. And I've had great speech therapists. And so, what I have learned in doing this podcast for over 5 years is that if you attend, intensive speech therapy, there are, but better outcomes. Do you find that to be true?
That is a hard question, and I would be hesitant to give a firm stance on that, just because I am not quite to that level of my education to give a properly educated response on that. But my assumption is it's just that through the number of hours and time that you devote to the method or to the therapy in a intensive, that would surely produce better outcomes than just having 1 hour per week, or just how many hours a week that you do with your private speech therapy, like after work or after school.
I got you, sir. Awesome. Okay, now you had touched on this, previously, but I want to hear the whole story. So, do you experience phases, in your speech, as to where, there are days that everything comes out, and then you have days where nothing comes out?
Exactly. Yes. I believe we all have those periods of time where we have spontaneously wonderful speech, and then days where you cannot do one thing correctly. I do know that over time, I am able to have better trends of fluent speech based on the number of hours and the dedication that I devote to my speech therapy method. So I can certainly set trends for myself, positively or negatively, but overall, yes, there are times and days where things seem completely random. There is no control on my end, at least.
Ooh, Hayden, I gotta tell you, Hayden, I mean, there are days everything comes out, and then, people tell me, you don't stutter, you're just acting. What? Are you serious? It's like, I mean, yeah, it's, you know what? It's all random. And yeah, so it's like, no, I mean, it comes and goes. I have no control over it. It does whatever it wants to do. I'm just here for the ride. I mean, that's all I can do. So if you're having a horrible speech day, how do you handle that?
Well, that is when I will unfortunately tend to embrace those old habits that I have, and just try to slip into the mindset of just trying to get by and survival. So I will at first, of course, choose to not quite as engage as much as I might do naturally. And that will produce some very visible anxiety too. So I like moving or just being very tense bodily. On those days, especially due to that strong emotion, it takes a toll on me physically too. So I'll feel very, very fatigued, and once I am done with whatever that I have to get through, I will go try and rest. I'll just try to go have my escape for a while, whether that comes in just trying to watch some TV or read or be on my cell phone or go for a workout, just whatever that I really need to be able to turn off my brain right then.
Ooh, Hayden. Oh, yes, sir. I mean, when I have those days, I go to the ocean. It's extremely, peaceful. I go into the water and it recharges me. So, but I mean, I do have my horrible days. However, I tell myself, you know what, tomorrow, it will be a better day tomorrow. However, for right now, I'm going to, take care of Pedro, because I mean, it is important that we do our self-care because it is super important. So, yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you this. Have you ever experienced negative self-talk?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is a daily part, I think, of experience, at least when you are not doing well yourself mentally. Yeah, I mean, having so many negative like interactions when you go to be social too can really create some strong self-doubts, whether that is you doubting your own capability or your own strength or your own sanity almost. I know that I have definitely doubted my own ability to be able to pursue a true meaningful career that I enjoy, to be able to find the loving spouse that I really want. Can I even find a person at all? So many different questions and concerns that all start out as just as fears, but then those turn in on me and I begin to use those to attack myself. So that's definitely a path that I'm trying to turn off of.
Ooh, Hayden, I can relate, sir. I've had mine for a really long time. And I mean, for, decades. And so what I did, later in life, I gave it a name. And so I call him Oscar the Grouch. And let me tell you, Hayden, he pops up like on the daily. He pops up, Hayden. However, what I do now is he hits me, with all of the, negatives. So I hit him with all of the positives. I said, I'm going to do this. It don't matter if it takes me a while. I am going to do this. And so I shut him down because I mean, he pops up. I mean, like, a couple of times per day, he pops up. However, I have learned, and I mean, Hayden, it took me a long time, Hayden. It took me a long time, but when he would pop up and be all, you can't do that. You can't talk on the phone. You cannot give a presentation on stage to all these people. You can't do that. So what I have learned is I hit them with all of the positives. I'm going to do it. I will have a great time and you cannot stop me. And so when I hit him with all of it, he goes away. He goes away. But I mean, it's a constant, it's a daily struggle. So yeah. So if you have a win, do you, speech-wise, do you celebrate it?
I'll think that I really go out of my way to really celebrate it, but I do definitely make a meaningful effort to recognize it and use that as a sign of my own strength and my own capability too. I think that as reassurance that I can do everything and I don't need to try to feed that self-doubt. And I just celebrate that win by trying to keep it with me so that I can use that to fuel and encourage me going into the future.
How cool. Oh, yes, sir. I mean, I believe that if you have a win, I mean, you need to celebrate it. If I give a speech, I go on stage and there's 30 people who are in the audience. And then after I'm done, I hear a round of applause. Woo, let me tell you, Hayden, I mean, I am at an all-time high. I mean, I tell myself, look what I did. Look what I did. It came out fantastic. I had a couple of hiccups, but look what I did. I mean, I do my little happy dance and woo, woo, woo. I can't wait for the next one. So yeah, I celebrate all my wins because I mean, woo, we work hard, Hayden. We work hard, 100 times harder than everybody else. So yeah, if I have a win, you best believe I'll do my happy dance and then, and keep on trucking. All right, Hayden. So here is a head scratcher. So I asked all my guests, all 126 of them. So their answers are split right down the middle, sir. So, I just have to ask you this. So when you are alone, are you able to speak without stuttering?
Largely, yes. Yes. I do not know why, but I do see that quite commonly. Just being able to speak aloud to myself.
See, sir, and I am your opposite. When I'm alone, when I go over my calendar in my head, I talk out loud, I still blog, I still repeat. So, I mean, we're all different. So I want to ask you this. To you, if you are tired or stressed or I'm anxious, do you feel that your stutter gets worse?
Absolutely. Yes. I feel like those are all catalysts for me being able to exercise less effortful control. Because of course, having to use the current targets or those techniques as I've described to you does take very active concentration, and I do have to integrate that in defiance of how I almost want to speak naturally. So having any of those pop up or be on my mind when I'm trying to speak is definitely harmful. Always.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you for that. Awesome. All right. So has this ever happened to you? Let's say you have a doctor's appointment or dentist appointment or whatever, and you go over there. And so you walk in and there's an admin desk area, and the admin person, they see you and they greet you. Hi, good morning. What is your name? And then, Hayden, you have a block. But I'm not talking just an ordinary block, Hayden. It's a block. I mean, this is a long block. And then the admin person asks you, did you forget your name?
Has that ever happened to you, sir? Oh, so commonly. Yeah, I mean, having that long block is always the absolute worst possible time to, because of course they don't know that that you stutter, as it is your very first time talking with them. So there is that feeling that you don't want to embarrass them almost, or to make them feel bad, and it's not cause trouble by just trying to almost laugh it off. Yeah, so I have quite commonly just tried to avoid the question and just take whatever clipboard that I'm offered and walk away. Yeah, I mean, I know that I still have those interactions to this day, and I try not to be hurt by them, but of course it does still sting.
Ooh, Hayden. If I had a quarter, Hayden, I'd be a billionaire. And so the old Pedro, I would get angry and rage on them, but no, that's the old Pedro. The older Pedro, I'm tired, Hayden. Hayden, I'm an old man. I'm tired. And so what I do now is I educate. I raise awareness, and tell them that, I have a speech impediment. I have a stutter. And 9 times out of 10, they will, apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. Da-da-da-da-da. I said, it's all good. It's all good. I'm here to educate and raise awareness and tell you, here's what you will hear, and this is what you are going to see. Because my arms go all over the place, my eyes get all closed. I mean, it is what it is. And so that way, for the next time they have another person who stutters, they will be more equipped. Because my motto is always, when you know better, you do better. So yeah, I mean, it's all about education and raising awareness. Because I mean, it still happens to me, Hayden, and I'm 52 years old. It still happens to me. So I educate. That's all I do. Educate. All right. So here is a deep question, Hayden. I ask all my guests. All of their answers are split right down the middle, and I respect everyone's answers. So I want to ask you, Hayden. I got to hold up because it's a powerful question. So, do you consider stuttering as a disability?
Ooh. Well, over the years, I have had to look at this very same question myself, and after having a few years of education in communication sciences and disorders, and after my own experience as a person who does stutter, I believe that it is. It certainly does have a very disabling effects on your life. It fits under the classification of what a disability does to you and your daily life. There are protections for people who stutter in the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I think it's also important to be aware of your rights too. Unlike most disabilities, there are options for treatment to at least partially alleviate it. So I believe that is an area in which it can be doubted as a legitimate disability. And of course, there are a range of prominences too for it. But coming down to the definition, I believe that it is.
Thank you for that, sir. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about your career path. Had you ever thought, holy mac and cheese, this is going to hurt me, hinder me in my, career path, whatever that I choose? Did you also, think about that, sir?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to this day, when I when I tell people what my career path is, I still get tons of questions every single time. There are very confused looks. Yes, so I always find it quite humorous to tell people that I am a man who does stutter, but I intend to eventually become a speech-language pathologist myself. Yes. And it's wild to really go into my own personal history and connection to it, and have to explain that I can still be a perfectly capable provider of that care despite my own struggle myself.
Awesome, sir. Yes, we can do it. We can do it. Yes, sir. All right. So here is a hot topic. We have a couple of hot topics, but here is a hot topic. I ask everybody, and I get some really great answers. So we are going to talk about dating. All right. As you know, dating is stressful for everybody. However, if you have a stutter, it's like 1,000,000 times more stressful. How do you navigate dating with having a stutter?
Truthfully, to this day, I still do not quite know how to navigate it well, because I personally do not have a very good dating history myself. There is still so much of that fear there. I mean, well, in terms of the social expectations, there is that view that the man ought to be actively trying to approach a woman, to flirt, to get to know them, to ask them out. I still feel an intense fear at any of those ideas, trying to just randomly come up to a woman and have them be okay with the fact that I am stuttering and to not feel uncomfortable with it. That is still a big challenge. And to me, a major concern is just trying to be able to find that proper person who also understands my struggle and is all right with having a little bit of some struggle with me as I attempt to communicate to them, and also just communicate harder things inside that relationship too.
Ooh, Hayden, I have to tell you, Hayden, I mean, I ask everybody on my podcast, and so I get all kinds of answers. And so what I tell everybody, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Later on, I will ask you this. However, I'm going to share with you, my history. Okay, so I didn't date until I was 25 years old, because the big F word: fear, anxiety, everything, shame, guilt, everything. However, I have a friend, and she is awesome, and she had told me, Pedro, I'm gonna find you somebody. So that was her goal, and so she had all scheduled a blind date. Okay, now Hayden, I hadn't done anything. I hadn't done anything, due to anxiety and fear, all that. And so she had scheduled a blind date at a restaurant. And let me tell you, Hayden, when I walked in, the eyes locked, and that was it. And this past February, 27 years later, we're still going, Hayden. So, the heart doesn't care if you stutter. It don't care if you're bald or bow-legged or have a mohawk. It don't care. And so what I tell everybody, there is a person out there. it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But you may have some, ups and downs, but everyone has those. Everyone does. But yeah, but no, it will happen. It will happen. So just, FYI. Okay. So what do you think about all this new technology? We have Google Home, we have Alexa, and we have Siri. Do you think all this new technology is helpful or hurtful for people who stutter?
I see it as being largely beneficial, as is just one more medium to communicate by. I think it is only really harmful when it's used as a method for avoidance. Yeah, so I think it is just like anything else, where it is highly individual and up to the person.
Oh yes, sir. And and then also, many people who stutter have told me that it is a great way to practice, because it's it is a robot, and so it is not a human being, and and so I thought, hey, that's a pretty good response. And so yeah, I tried to, Hayden, and it does not. I don't do it because it doesn't give you enough time to respond. So I just, I don't do it at all. So that's just me. All right, Hayden. So what is a challenge speech-wise that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Well, probably the largest challenge I've had to overcome speech-wise so far was having to give a graduation speech for 8th grade. That was highly, highly scary to me. I did not know how I was going to handle that. So essentially how I handled that was just through trying to rely on some friends where I could have some time to practice the entire speech in the very same location beforehand. I relied on friends to calm me and just try to ground me. And that was essentially how I did my best to manage my emotions and my fear beforehand. During it, I just did what I always do when I have to go about a speaking situation, and just try to keep a clear head and a calm mind.
That is awesome, and that is smart. You go and practice at the place that you are going to do it. I do that too. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so so I ask everybody, and all of their answers are split right down the middle, but I just ask everybody, and I respect everyone's answer, because, all of our journeys are different. So I want to ask you this, Hayden. So do you think it's okay to stutter, or is it important to keep chasing the fluency gods?
I think it is perfectly okay to stutter. That is a major part, or I would say almost all of how we have over time come to see ourselves and to define ourselves. I don't think that it should be the sole way that you try to find your value in the world. But as having my dual perspective as both a person who stutters and also a future speech-language pathologist too, it is important to be realistic and know that you want your life to be as easy as possible, to give yourself that highest quality of life so you can enjoy it most. So if you don't want to go about speech therapy and that would make you feel happiest, then go for it. But for me and for anybody else who wants to enable their communication to be easier, to have fewer hiccups, then I say it is important to chase that fluency, and that's what I do actively chase each day.
Awesome, sir. Thank you. I thank you for that answer. All right. So what has your stutter taught you?
Stuttering has imparted a multitude of lessons over my pretty short lifetime so far. The core lessons that I've taken away from it are the importance of listening. Having your own speech limited really shows you the value of words and the thought that people put into them. Words are how we express our hearts and souls and desires, and they should not be taken for granted or ignored. I know that people who are naturally fluent might not see quite what is the big deal about their words, but I see every person's words as being intrinsically valuable. So I make a strong effort to give them my full attention, to not be distracted by anything. I have learned from starting to be very thankful too, because fluent speech is something that people who are born fluent do not really have to ever really think about or express gratitude for. But of course, not being able to be perfectly fluent myself makes me highly jealous or covet their natural ability. Of course, that also leads me to think, well, I have also so many things that other people would kill to have. Like I have a healthy body and a stable family, and I have a roof over my head. So it really does make you think and ponder on your own life. And also it has really changed how I go about my friendships too, because the people who are there in your best times also your worst, those people are highly valuable, because I definitely see people who are really only friendly to me when I'm able to be fluent. That is unfortunate, and I often see those friendships as being quite fake. And I've seen those people who have been with me for the entire ride, so I make sure to always keep them close to me and express my appreciation. So I believe those are the core lessons that I've been able to take away.
How cool. I mean, that's awesome, sir. So what advice would you give to another person who stutters?
Ooh, well, if that person is a child, I would just try to express that the world is not going to end. You have a future you can look forward to. Please do not abandon hope. I know that childhood is oftentimes the worst time in a person who stutters experience, but I would just try to encourage that child to not give up and to seek community for a teenager or a young adult, I would just encourage them to try to chase that personal fulfillment that they want, irregardless of the fields. To not let that stutter scare them off of the goals that they truly want to pursue, and also to please prioritize your mental health too, because I know that it can be a very scary balance to have to walk. And to any older adult, I don't know what I would say to them, just because they all have more experience being a person who stutters than I do, and I have not quite lived that part of my life yet. So,
Ooh, but Hayden, I mean, it moved me, Hayden. To give advice to a child. I mean, it moved me. I thank you for that. Ooh. I took notes. You are too good, Hayden. Woo! Hayden, you're killing Pedro up here in Texas. All right, sir. So here is our last question. It's a big one. So if you had the opportunity to give insight about stuttering to the world on a world stage, what message would you convey?
The one message that I would choose to convey is that stuttering is not a reduction of your humanity. You are just as much of a human being with emotions and feelings and intelligence. The only difference is that you have a challenge and a little time delay in trying to express yourself. But please just take the time and have the kindness to get to know us. And I believe that everybody can benefit from being able to have a connection to a person who stutters, because we often have so much positive insight.
Ooh, Hayden, that's a wonderful man, Hayden. You're killing me, Hayden. You're killing me over here in Houston. You're killing me. Ooh, okay. That was a wonderful message. And so, I want to say, thank you. It has been a pleasure and honor to speak with you, sir. You are a bright light in our community, and so I mean, it has been a pleasure and an honor to speak with you today, sir.
You too. Thank you so much, and I greatly enjoyed the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And now, as of a week ago, Hayden, I am now in 121 countries on 6 continents.
What?
It is a blessing. It is a blessing. I'm still waiting on that one person in Antarctica, and so I can be on all continents. But you know what? That's a goal. That is a goal. So I have amazing, listeners from all over the world. If they wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way?
The best possible way to reach out to me would be over my Instagram account, which is at Hayden_Downs1, no capitals, or over email, which is HaydenAshleyDowns@gmail.com.
All right, sir. Awesome. I will have all those links in the podcast notes, and so that way anyone from all over the world, Hayden. I mean, Egypt, Scotland, Hawaii, they are going to reach out to you because you are hashtag awesome. You are hashtag phenomenal. And so I want to say just, thank you. I've had the best time talking with you to Dacer, and, down the road, let's do this again. Because, after you graduate, I'm sure you'll have a lot of stories to tell Pedro. So I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere, Hayden. It's all good.
Absolutely. That would be my pleasure.
All right, sir. I thank you very much. You have an awesome evening. Take care, be well, and stay safe.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.